no proof is not enough.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Geek-A-Tech. It's been a while from my last video where we discussed about how to identify the automation frameworks and how we can choose the automation uh, uh, approach for our product. So there are different factors which we have discussed in our last video, where we identify that how we can choose an automation framework, whether we are going to choose a BDD framework or how to choose a tool which we want to use for our project. So that we have discussed in our last video. So thank you for your love and your support. Please, if you are new to my channel, please do like, share and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to press notification bell. So friends, today we are going to talk about how to choose test cases for automation. It's a very important point which I want to discuss with you today, because it's we know that whenever a new product came and the development starts, so we are doing the manual testing, and we will perform this system testing, functional testing on that product. But when over the period of time when we want to run the regression, which is we need to run it again and again, and many times we need to run it so frequently because of our deployment cycle, or any changes we are going to deploy in production, or any hot fixes is going, then we need to test the regression. So we at that particular point of time we will require automation. But the biggest question is how to choose the test cases for the automation. How to identify that okay, this test case is eligible for automation. Because what happened when we have lots and lots of test cases in front of us, like we have 200, 100 or 50, even 50, which is a very less amount. But we need to be very selective for that okay, this which test cases I should select for automation. It's a very very important point to understand that identifying the automation candidate is very important. Because if you identified the wrong test cases, then it might waste your efforts, waste your time. It will not give you the ROI which you are expecting. So today we are going to discuss about the few factors on which we can select and identify the automation test cases. Again, these all factors which we are going to discuss today is not about the thumb rule or a very hard rule to select an automation test case. Again, most of the things will depend on just the size of your product, nature of your product, or nature of your application. So what I am trying to discuss here is that we will going to identify the certain criterias which will be very very helpful for you to select the test cases from your manual suite, or from your regression suite, which is already created by manual testers or functional testers. Okay, so let's start. So first, what to consider. So first we need to understand that what kind of automation suite we are going to create. So the first point is type of testing. Are we going to create a smoke testing regression suite, smoke testing automation suite? Are we creating an integration or uh, automation suite, or we are going to create a regression or automation suite? Because the type of testing or the type of automation suite which we are going to create have a greater impact of this type of testing. Because when you are creating for a smoke suit, then you have a different kind of criteria for creating the for selecting the automation candidate. When you are going for an integration automation suite, then you have a very different approach for selecting the test cases. When you are going for a regression automation suite, then you have to select the test cases quite differently, which is not applicable in smoke test. There might be a scenarios which are not applicable in smoke test, but it will be applicable in your regression or your integration suite. So first you need to identify that okay, I need to perform the automation, I need to create an automation suite. So first, what kind of testing I am going to achieve through this automation test suite? Is I'm going to create a smoke automation test suite, is I'm going to create an integration, is or my 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 consideration is regression test suite. Okay, so this is the first thing. uh, the second point is priority. So it's a very important point to understand that the test cases which we want to automate, we should understand their priorities, their business criticality, their business priorities also. Because when you have, suppose you have 1000 number of test cases with you, but first, because you can't automate everything at a time. Okay, you need to understand that how you need to pick the test cases for automation, that okay, these scenarios are very critical for business. Every time when we release a hot fix, or we release a new feature, or we are going for a new deployment, then these certain features should be applicable to test. Okay, let's say a very important example I will give you from the application. Suppose you have a pause application, point of sale application, where you run a, where you want automation the test cases. Then you should test that the transactions works fine. Okay, it is very very important, very very critical aspect to get the, because it's a very critical feature for the product, that okay, my pos application is able to perform a sale transaction, which is very important. Where there is another feature which is given as a value added service for your application. um, so it might not require automation preferably, because it's a value added service, is an extra service which you are going to provide. So yes, we can automate it, but it will be go in your backlog, and you will select it in the later point of time, because right now you have your critical test cases with you, like performing the sale transactions, or selecting the items. So like critical, high and medium priority test cases should be firstly automated. Trivial or low priority test cases should be automated later on. Okay, I'm not saying that you should not automate them, but they can be automated later on. So first you need to identify the test cases priorities, you need to understand the business requirements, you need to understand the business priorities for your product, so you can understand that okay, this is a critical feature, this is a high priority feature, this is a medium priority feature, we should automate it because it is going to test in every release, or it's a very important feature in the particular release or in upcoming releases every time. So it's all depend on the priorities of your the features which you are going to deliver, or which you are going to automate. So the third is the frequency. So it's a very important point, like that how frequent that feature is going to be used in your application. Like suppose login, log out, 8 items in cards, you can see the order histories. So these all are if you have an e-com applications, then these all features are very very frequent in use. Okay, login logout is very frequent, because you cannot access the features of your application if you do not log in. Okay, where there are a couple of scenarios which are very less used in your application. Like you want to go and click on about, and it will give you the version of your application and the name of the application and very small details. So there might be case that about details which is not going to change until next year, or suppose, or any new feature, very highly recommended feature, which changes the functionality drastically of your application, and you need to mention in about section. So in such case, because if you are going to just verify these 3 points which is mentioned in about, like the version, like the name of the application, and the address, suppose, okay, of your company is there. So it's not considered to be automated, because the efforts which you are going to put it in the automation will not give you the ROI, because that feature is very less usable. So instead, suppose out of 10 releases, if you are testing that feature only for 2 times, or its priority is very low and very less that feature is used in the production, So you should not go for those items. You should first automate those things which are frequently used, because whenever any release or any hotfix you release, then you need to test it again and again, and that this feature is frequently used in the market. So we need to save our time to test those features, okay, as a part of regression or as a part of smoke. So always choose the features which are high, which are high in frequency. Another one, the efforts. So it's a very critical aspect about the choosing the automation test cases, like how much effort is required to automate along with their priorities, like with the medium priorities. Suppose if there is an application, you need to download a file which displays you the template of a certain file which is going to be used when you fill the form, okay. Like suppose if I have a banking application where I need to go to a particular option and I need to download a form which says that okay, just sign this form and submit to the bank, because you want certain approvals, or you want to apply for a gift card, something like that, or you want to use certain evaluated features. So the problem is here is that when you choose it as for the automation, then you need to put more and more efforts, because you need to automate it in certain way, because you need to verify the content of the application, the complaint of the content of the downloaded file also. And it will take huge amount of time to automate that thing, and there might be a case that that feature will be uh, disable after few months or after few releases, or that feature is not that much in use. So you need to understand that okay, this feature is used, but to verify a file which is downloaded and which has around 10 pages, okay, suppose it that downloaded 10 page of PDF file, then you need to verify a certain values in that PDF. So it's not recommended to select the test cases which requires more effort than the manual efforts, okay. Suppose if you want to download a PDF file and you need to verify a couple of things only in that, and its priority is also low, so instead of going for automation, don't go for automating certain kinds of feature which require more and more efforts. Because what happens when you put that much effort in that feature, then there might be case you miss the high priorities or easily automated features of your application, okay. Another one is the test data. So how big test data you want to test, it's very very important. Like suppose you have a name field, okay, in your application, in your ecom application you have a name field. So you want to test that okay, this name field should not take any other value than string or than alphabets, okay. So what you can do that, okay, you can test it with different values like 1 2 3 4 5, or the special characters of your keyboard, like ampersand, asterisk, brackets, full stop, question mark, like that, okay. You want to test it. So that for this field, whenever you are going to test it, you need to test certain amount of test data. You need to test it with 1 to 0 combination, the numeric combination. You want to test it with the different special character combinations, okay. So when you test it manually, it will take more time, okay. You need to check not with all the combinations, but at least if you have some suppose if in your code where the regex applied and they had some a very minor mistake, then what happens that out of 10 to 15 combinations, one combination or two or three combinations not working, that's all other combinations are working, they are giving error. So what you have to do, you have to automate certain things, and you need to put as much as test data you can place, okay. So it will give you more accurate results, and it will increase the your what we can say, your trust in the application, okay, that now my feature is working fine, now I have tested with each and every combinations, okay. Another thing is cross platform, that you need to understand that if you are going to select a test case, that okay, that test case is required to test on the different platforms, like on different browsers or on different OS or different test environments. Like you have integration environment, you will have QA environment, you have staging environments, you will have pre-production environment, you will have UAT environments. Okay, so you need to select test cases based on your environments also, because what happen many times when you run the test cases in your pre-production, those have very less number of test cases in comparison to your functional or staging environments. Error prone, so how much the test case is error prone while testing manually. So it's a very important point like that, because what happens many times when the testing happens manually, then manual errors happens, you might miss the things because of the repetitive task, because of repetitive nature. So you need to understand that, okay, because what happened, it's very repetitive nature, so it's easy to miss the errors. So you should take those test cases first. The another point, which is the size of application and product. It all depends on the size of your application. If your application is small, then okay, you can go for all the test cases. But your size of application is big, then you need to be very selective in the automation test suite. You need to break your automation test suite in smoke, integration, or regression, and you need to be very selective, because what happens over the period of time, when your size of your application increases, your test suite size is also increases. Then you need to refine your test suite over the period of time. So while choosing the test cases, you should be very careful that, okay, unnecessary or exhaustive kind of test scenarios you are not covering in your automation test suites. So there are a couple of more points to remember. Always create a matrix. It's very good to create a matrix which through which you can map the your manual test cases with your automation test suite. So it will be very very good for you to understand that, okay, you didn't miss anything, or based on the priority. Suppose you have the priority test cases 10 priority or 100 priority test cases, and all those test cases are covered in your automation suite. So if you create a matrix, then it is a very very good traceability thing. Okay, from the traceability point of view, it is very good. Always consider the third party dependencies. Okay, there are many cases where you have the third party dependencies, or you have some vendors who are impacting your applications. What happens many times, of because of outages, you are not able to access the third party features. So it is not good to automate those features using the automation, because it always fails if your third party dependency is very high, and it took time to configure them or to access them, and there might be a case they are highly out of order, or they are not online, or they are not providing their services 24/7. So there might be a case where you need to minimize the third party dependencies, like certain feature which are dependent on a particular vendor, that they are providing certain responses to you. Based on that, you are going to um, you know verify your test cases. But what happens that, okay, every time we need to run, then we need to inform them first that, okay, now can you please up your services so we can test our features and all those stuff. So in case of automation, we should try to avoid this kind of dependencies. Always run manually first your test cases, because it's my personal opinion that if you are going to automate anything, but before that you should run it manually. You should understand how it perform. There might be a case where you have all the test cases with you, that the manual testers or the functional testers have created for you, and you are going to automate them. But it will be very good if you run them at least one time, okay, or couple of scenarios, so you will have a very good understanding, a better understanding of your application, and it will be very easy for you to automate these scenarios. Or there might be a case you will identify new scenarios to to cover the testing. So always try to run them at least one time manually. Understand the product, because if you don't understand the product, then you know uh, automating it is you are driving a vehicle which you don't have knowledge, but you just holding the steering wheel, that's it. you don't know how to control it, or the product knowledge is very very important to understand the features, how it behave, because based on that you can select the application, select the test cases of your application. You can modify your automation suite. You can understand that how it will behave in certain scenarios, so you can make your application, your automation suite more robust. So understanding of a product is very very important. You need to identify the size of test data, that how much test data you are going to test in your automation suite. You have to be very careful. You cannot use very minimum test data. You cannot have very large chunk of test data, otherwise it will impact the performance of your automation suite. Environment stability. Environment stability means the test environments, or the different testing environments should be more very very stable before running your automation suite. So there might be a case you should run a health check before running your main automation suite. You should write a certain script which runs first before your automation suite, which checks the uh, environment stability, and based on those responses you will trigger your automation suite. Otherwise it will waste your time. The very important point is, don't go for 100% automation. Okay, it's not recommended that you should go for 100% automation. Otherwise you will miss the important, you will miss the deadlines. You will miss the critical scenarios to be automate as soon as you can, because you have the deadlines for your releases also. So don't go for 100% automation. Try to identify major scenarios, critical scenarios, high level scenario, high priority scenarios. Okay, if you are going to perform 100% automation suite, then there might be two possibilities. First, your test suite size got too much big, and it will impact the performance of your automation test suite. The second thing is that there might be scenarios which is not possible to automate because of certain dependencies, and you are trying to automate it and you are wasting your time. Okay, so don't go for 100% automation. Try to understand the product, try to understand the features. Okay, based on that, select the features to automate, or select the test cases for automation. Discuss with manual testing team. It is always good to discuss the scenarios, and with discussion you can understand things very well. So I will, if you are testing manually, then it's very good. But if you are doing completely automation, you are not doing any kind of manual testing, then you should discuss with the manual testing team, so you can get a very good insight about the product, a very good, what you will also get that what they have expectation with the automation suite, because it will save their time also. So when you discuss with them, then they will say, okay, go for this test cases first. This scenarios are taking too much time, and they are very very error prone. So with the discussion with the manual team, you can understand very well the behavior of the product and the requirements for the automation test suites, and it will help you to identify the test cases for automation. So that's all about for today. So thank you everyone, thank you for your support.